Hello to all the wonderful people in the interwebs and readers of the Weird Mind of Mine. Yes, I'm back again with a similar post to my blogs that I did last year before I started all these video pieces, where I'm going to be giving an in-depth look at some of the content that's coming out the next year and giving my thoughts on what I'm looking forward to over the next 12 months in the medium of entertainment, with some of those getting videos from me in the mention of like probably the weekly news pieces, reviews when I watch and give my thoughts on them, and some that may even give a longer video form to them if I really enjoyed them, or if they're like gameplays or something like that. So I'm going to split them up into 3 sections, of course, where I'm going to be delving with where they vary in length and difference. So it's going to start with movies, then we're going to go to TV shows, and I'm going to end it with games. If I have any other bits in there like music or something, that I might throw in at the end, or even books or something, but we'll have to look it out. So let's have a look and see what 2024 has to offer and what has piqued my interest.
I'm just going to go watch a movie.
So, just on the basis of the start of this videos, I'm actually going to just fly through the month of January, because at the time of recording, it's now the 4th of February. So basically, I should have done this earlier, but you know, do kind of thing. So I'm going to sort of fly through and explain just brief synopsis of what I think of, like, just for some of these movies that are coming out. So first off in the movies is Poor Things, which is the story about a woman being brought back to life by a scientist who game-ended herself and who has the mind of an infant, will learn of many things in life, from knowledge, life experiences, and even to the level of sexual pleasure. Mainly from the excellent performances of Emma Stone, who's been getting a few award nominations, as well as Mark Ruffalo and Willem Dafoe, and I might give us a watch while on the build up to the award season. Then the first action popcorn flick was of course The Beekeeper, which was seeing Jason Statham play as on a revenge quest against greedy companies who are known for scamming people into taking their money and funds. Essentially a massive situation that's become more prominent in recent years, mainly known for being located in India or Eastern Asia, or basically all these like scam phone call centers, or they've tried methods of emails. And to avenge the death of his caring elderly neighbor who took her own life from it, and will use his government tactical skills as a beekeeper to take them down. I've heard some good stuff about it. It'll probably be worth a watch over time, so it's definitely worth like a good action flick to check out with popcorn. Getting Loser, we got a remake to do, as coming out 20 years after the original cult classic, the popular teen comedy Mean Girls has gotten an all-new update in the form of a musical format, which is going to tell the same story about this new girl becoming part of a bitchy group known as the Plastic, led by Regina George, who has power over the school and popularity and will soon lead to tearing it down from the inside using a burn book. It's gotten some decent reception. It is written by and starring the original actress of Tina Fey, and I've heard some alright decently good received reception so it's also based on a musical, which people kind of are a bit hit or miss on when they discover that it is a musical, when same thing with Wonka, and that's doing well, so they've both been doing well, so it's worth a watch. And another film that has a kind of potential award season flair is a film with 2 rising Irish stars of All of Us Strangers that sees Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott becoming infatuated with one another in this romantic fantasy film that's all about finding themselves while dealing with things from the past. It's garnered some unanimous praise. It seems like a wholesome love story kind of thing with a nice little twist to it or something, but it is sort of a decent recommendation, and check it before the end of award season. But I don't know if it's gotten major award seasons, but you know. And the other one, of course, is also released around the same time, was the retelling of the classic Spielberg film with The Color Purple in a new musical format, which sees a tale of a woman torn away from her family and children, married to an abusive relationship, and will soon find herself in true power and strength for the building sisterhood with a sultry singer of Shug Avery and her stand-her-ground stepdaughter. This one has also gotten a lot of great praise. It's gotten a few nominations of what I've seen, and the performances have been pretty good, so I want to check either of them out. That's basically all we have in January. Right now, I just literally talked about, I'd say 2 or 3 of these ones now, because at the point of this was only come out this week, with the first one being the new spy caper movie from Matthew Vaughn, who already had some spy films, of course, with the Kingsman series and with his new film of Argylle. They'll follow the character of Ellie Conroy, a reclusive author of a best-selling series of espionage novels, but a spy named Argylle ends up being tangled in a high-stakes espionage journey when her books turn out to be very real and also very closely accurate to how the missions played out in real time. I do like the idea of a spy film where the author's work turns to be real and scarily accurate, is unbeknownst to them, and I'm hoping this will turn out as good that it might be like a more improved version over that Lost City movie from last year, you know, the one with Sandra Bullock, that I kind of found a bit underwhelming, to be fair. I haven't seen this movie yet. I'm looking forward to it, and it's got a great all-star cast, so that's going to be something worth checking out. And then in the case of the first animated movie of this year, and one of the second last films that was released last year in the States, is starting off from Illumination, that has been flying high last year with the second highest grossing movie of the year year with the Mario movie with their new movie of Migration. It'll follow family Mallet decide to leave the safety and comfort of their home in a pond in the woods, decide to take a journey of a lifetime to Jamaica, and get they must survive the absolute chaos of the urban jungle of New York City. I've heard some decent reception about this film. It's a feel-good movie. There's a good message to it. It's not the most original concepts, but it's worth a watch. I definitely would say it's a good watch for the whole family. And the first known of the streaming films releasing onto streaming services, taking us to a new release from the animation studio DreamWorks, who's giving their take on the popular children's book of Orion in the Dark. And this tells the story of Orion, a young kid who has a fear of essentially everything, but especially of the dark. So when the embodiment of the nighttime fear appears to him and takes him on a journey, he makes it a goal to help him with the help of his friends to try and make Orion not afraid of everything while dealing with Dark's arch enemy of daylight. Now it does look like a harmless tale and could be something fun, good message. I think I've heard some good reviews for it as well. It's been pretty decently strong reviews stuff, so it might be worth a watch on Netflix. And then one of the last films that came out last year in the States but only releasing here next week is coming to us from A24 with their new biopic about the tragic tale of the Von Erich family with the film of the Iron Claw. This will follow the trials and tribulations that led them to becoming the world famous wrestling family and the tragedy and hardship of the family dynamic that followed. It's mainly following the sole remaining brother of the family, who's been played by a strong performance from Zac Efron, who's been getting great praise for it, and it's gotten some decent reception, probably worth a watch when it releases in the early half of February. And then for the first superhero movie of the year is coming to us with not an MCU movie, as technically only counts as one, but does count as well, but it's a bit questionable right now, or the DCU, but it's one from the Sony Spider-Man universe that doesn't have Spider-Man in it, but one is somewhat closest to a hero, and that is the new character of Madame Web, which is following a character of Cassandra Webb, a paramedic in New York, who's become connected to the Spider-Verse, I think, or has a bit of a clairvoyant connection that's lets her see into the future, must use her powers to help save 3 young women who have a potential future as spider people from a evil mercenary dressed and designed similar to a certain wall crawler. I'm a little mixed on this film to say anyway. The film looks alright, but it could be good. I enjoyed the Venom movies. Morbius is a joke kind of thing, and the Spider-Verse movies, peak cinema, I will say, but you already know about those movies. And this one, I like the concept and the character in the comics is interesting, but with the hope to be good or watchable and not a bit of a mess. But it could be something to watch when it comes out on Valentine's Day of all days, so who knows. And then wrapping up the movies for the month is another new biopic, and this is focusing more on a musical side of things with the new film based on Jamaican superstar Bob Marley with One Love. This follows his career span the decades to the One Love concert that would try to help bring peace to his country that is in the grip of conflict tensions in Jamaica. And I think this looks like a decent time in the movies. The main lead of Ben Kingsley Adair seems to have the look and feel down to the famous musician, and I'm sure it will probably be worth a look when it comes out on Valentine's Day as well. So you have two options. You have a musician, or you have a new Spider-Verse movie. Then the first of the films that was planned for last year but got delayed until this year because of the strikes, we are returning to the massive sand planet following the continuing story of Paul Atreides with Part 2 of Dune. This will see him and his mother Lady Jessica team with Freeman and Shani and fight back against those who destroyed his family and also find a way to do so without causing a devastating future that only Paul can foresee. I remember watching the first part back when it came out in cinemas, and while I thought it was visually stunning, it is a lot to take in for a single film with its plot and lore and world building all at once, but I'm still found some entertainment from it. Might have to give it a rewatch before then, but hopefully being some great storytelling when it comes out on the 1st of March. But also releasing on the same day, if sci-fi epics are not your thing and want more of a romantic horror twist, and now it's just a new horror romantic comedy of Lisa Frankenstein that will follow Lisa, a socially awkward teen who begins a relationship with a reanimated corpse and soon go on a journey of love, murder, and finding a few missing body parts along the way. I believe the Frankenstein monster is played by one of the Sprouse brothers or one of Zack and Cody kind of thing. I like the aesthetic of the quirky 80s rom-com mixed with the classic monster story, and hopefully it will be worth a watch. I know this will be out just in time for Valentine's in the States, but I guess they'll do a release at the beginning of March, but you get that. Now the first of 2 films that have a similar concept in name and possibly just in different genre and tone is the first being known as Imaginary from Blumhouse. This follows a mother giving their daughter the hand-me-down of her childhood teddy bear Chauncey, and the daughter becomes smitten with it, but when she starts to act not like herself, she senses something sinister has been attached to the doll, and all horrors ensue. Now I see the likes of this being interesting, but it has been the case that the horror films so far this year haven't been received the best. Looking at Night Swim, it hasn't been received the best anyway. And while the trailer was intriguing, it's nothing I haven't seen before, but hopefully I'm proven wrong when the film drops on the weekend before I turn old. Yeah, it's the weekend before I turned like into my mid-20s. But if you're looking for something to watch at home on the same weekend, with a star known for projects on Netflix and there's a bit of a fantasy element to it, then you can worry not, as there is a new film known as Damsel. This will star Millie Bobby Brown, and we'll see a common girl having the chance to marry a handsome prince is discovered to be a trap to be used as a sacrifice to a dangerous dragon creature for them to pay off an ancient debt, and then she must use her wits to defeat it and save herself from an untimely demise. Now I have the case that it doesn't look too bad. I have my own gripes with overusing this actress in a lot of things lately, but I think this could end up being decent. I'll give us a look around the time when it releases on Netflix. Then releasing on the 15th is a film with a bit of a black comedy film from one of the Coen brothers, with the film of Drive Away Dolls. This follows Marion and Jamie, two roommate friends who decide to find love and be more open by taking a cross-country journey to Tallahassee, Florida, to find themselves. But they soon end up in a bit of a situation where they are being pursued by some criminal gang when they are given a car with an important briefcase package in the trunk. Must find a way to get it back before, all hell ensues. It seems like a quirky chick flick, but something about this looks like a lot of fun, and I'll probably give a look when it comes out in mid-March of all places. And then for a film I didn't really think needs a remake, but I guess it is popular that why not make everything with into a remake, as Amazon Prime will be giving us an all-new remake of the cult classic Patrick Swayze film of Roadhouse. This will be starring Jake Gyllenhaal as an ex-UFC fighter who ends up working in a roadhouse bar in the Florida Keys, where things are not as easy as they seem. Now I like Gyllenhaal, but I question who thought a good casting choice was McGregor as some supporting character, as like a fucking nut job in the trailer anyway. I know he's popular a good while ago, but now he's not much of a popular figure, and some of his stuff that he says on social media, I don't really agree with. But hopefully his role is very minimal and that this turns out decently when it drops in the second half of March on Prime Video. And then the next film that was also laid out last year is about to bring the chill, because when it's something weird and it really don't look good, then who are you gonna call? Yes, I guess it's new Ghostbusters, of course, as we have what is technically the fourth entry in the franchise with Frozen Empire that will see the entirety of New York in the summer heatwave become trapped in a major cold snap that will see the Ghostbusters, young and old, stop what is causing this bit of a frosty fiasco. Now, this is a follow-up to Afterlife, a film I did see and did enjoy a whole lot, yet that is technically the third Ghostbusters and the fourth film overall, as the other one, well, it's in its own separate universe. They keep saying that it's canon, but how do you explain a case in the canonicity that you killed Bill Murray with a ghost dragon, Dan Aykroyd's just a taxi driver, Ernie Hudson owns a funeral service? How do you explain that they're the Ghostbusters? But I think so far it does look decent, and I'm intrigued to see how this will turn out when it takes a chill in the later half of March on the 22nd. And now for probably one of my most very highly anticipated films, and hopefully will just be as good as its original trilogy, as everyone's favorite Dragon Warrior Panda of Poe is back for an all-new Kung Fu Panda movie. This is the fourth entry, of course, and we'll see Poe go on a quest to find the new Dragon Warrior and become the next spiritual leader of the Valley of Peace. But when all new threat of the Chameleon takes the power of some of the most past enemies, including Tai Lung, it's up to Poe, the Furious Five, his family, and a new companion with Zen to stop his powerful new foe and save the day. I'm very excited for this one, being its inspiration in Kung Fu mythos and a bit of anime as well, and a series that could have flopped from the beginning, releasing great films every time, makes me excited for this film, wrapping up in quite a bit of a busy March. Now before we go into the next one in April, there is actually one that was just confirmed now to be releasing in the end of March, and this is the newest entry in the iconic Titans films of the Monsterverse, as you're seeing great publicity and popularity of late, teaming up to face a new threat with Godzilla X Kong and New Empire. This will be a prehistoric lizard titan and big monkey teaming up to face a new threat with the Scar King, another large ape that looks like he's balding and has a massive wingspan. Now, I thought the GVK was quite enjoyable, and I think this does look very decent new introduction, and if it's as good as the recently released Monarch series, the excellent -1, then I'm all for more Titan battles for a very long time, as this drops on the 29th of March. Then for a film that seems to make a follow-up and set the scene for a horror film franchise that's been around for nearly half a century and as long as The Exorcist, where we get the origin of the original classic film of The First Omen. It'll tell the tale of a young woman who's sent to work at a church in Rome that soon discovers a sinister conspiracy that could lead to the birth of the Antichrist. Now the only one I have seen is the original, and I couldn't really say much about the other two in the trilogy, but the TV film or the remake, but the trailer does come off at the beginning of the year looks very cryptic, and hopefully turns out good and releases just before Easter. And now for a film that will not leave my social media feed for the somewhat annoying fandom of this director that makes this film that was average out like it's the second coming of Christ. We have the second part to Zack Snyder's sci-fi film of Rebel Moon with the Scargiver that will see Korra and her new team of warriors teaming up to fight against the Sovereign and stop the forces of the Mother World from destroying all that they care and love. As mentioned, the first part was underwhelming, a little bit boring, that mainly consisted of traveling to few locations, finding warriors, and then preparing them for the battle in the next film, as a lot of parallels to Seven Samurai and Star Wars. Now I'm hoping the second part will be more decently better cause the first part was underwhelming, well for some, while many online think it's to love any of his work and see it as a masterpiece, or if the director could fixes it, but I can't really tell, so we'll have to see when it comes out. And another film that was delayed out of last year is with the new film from director Luca Guadagnino with Challengers. This will see Zendaya playing an all-star tennis player who after a bad injury becomes a coach to her husband and ends up in a match with an old partner and friend to the both of them that may see some sense of old feeling and romance return. Now this is a film with a trailer with a slightly steamy makeout scene of the three of them that everyone remembers from the trailer, but I think this is from the concept and trailer. It's looking decent and it'll probably be worth a watch when it drops in the end of April. And lastly from April, the film that I see as the release of the big discuss and talking point that could be a scary reality, similar to the case of the one of Sound of Freedom from last year, is director Alex Garland's new film of Civil War. That will see the film set in a near future and follow a team of journalists traveling across the US during a rapidly escalating civil war that's engulfed the entire nation that will have them struggle to survive when the government has become a dystopian dictatorship and partisan extremist militias commit political violence on the daily. This will probably be one of the biggest talking points of the year. If you're a little too close to how the US seems to be shaping up, if you have been following US politics lately, then it could be like any other film from last year, The Sound of Freedom, the film that had a massive boom in the US at first, but saw it fizzle out by the time it reached other parts of the world. But I guess we'll have to find out when the film drops at the end of April, so we'll have to see when that happens. To start off, one that actually I think is either May or April is the one of the last biopics this year that we know of is once again have a new biopic of a famous musician taken away from us too soon with Back to Black, which will focus on the early life and career of the famous musician of Amy Winehouse up to her tragic passing in 2011 at the age of only just 27. Now the biopic seems to look like it's going well into her personal life and her career, and I can see this being an interesting watch. Now I believe it drops in mid-April in the UK and Ireland, and then I think it's out in early May in the US, so we'll have to see when it does. Then for a new action film with director of John Wick, Deadpool 2 and Bullet Train, as we have the new Ryan Gosling movie of The Fall Guy. Now this is based on a television series from the 80s, and we'll see play him the character of Colt Seavers, a stuntman past his prime, working for a famous actor he worked with for a long time ago on a film being made by his ex-girlfriend. But when the star of the film goes missing and the film is threatened to be shelved, Colt goes on a mission to find the missing actor and save the movie and maybe become the real star in this process. Now it's also based, as I mentioned, on a TV series in the 80s in the same name, and from the trailer it does look really good. I look forward to checking this out by the start of the summer season of films. Now a film that was initially coming out at the end of the month is now moved up to the second week of May, is a film that has continuation with a little concerning point to me, following on from the conclusion of a fantastic reboot trilogy of the 60s classic. We return to the world of apes with the newest film of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Now this new film will be jump us 300 years into the future and see the world populated by more intelligent and sentient apes, while the remaining humans of the past have been reduced to more animalistic natures, and will follow a young ape named Noah who goes on a journey with a young human named May to determine the future of humans and apes alike and stop the new tyrannical reign of Proximus Caesar, who tries to prevent the teachings of the Caesar we follow in the original trilogy and use it to enslave other ape clans to help them find the last traces of human technology. Now the trailer does have me intrigued and looks like we're getting closer and closer to the version of the original film from the 60s. It does have my piqued interest. I'm uncertain with it not being made by Matt Reeves since he is busy with the Batman sequels, but I do hope that it will turn out really good, on par with its excellent trilogy. Now this also might be having a slightly early release date as it is. I think it's on the 10th of May, so hopefully we get that point. And now for another animated fixture with the long-running return to the popular fat orange cat with an all-new movie of Garfield. Now this new story will see Garfield, in this being voiced by Chris Pratt, becoming reunited with his long-lost father of Vic, in this voiced by Samuel L. Jackson, and end up with the two of them and Odie getting tangled up in a somewhat heist situation. Visually the animation looks pretty great, the characters are very close to their original comic strip counterparts from Jim Davis Davis, and it seems like it could be enjoyable. Now I know most of the issues of the film right now is the decision of the casting of Chris Pratt as Garfield, as people think he's not really doing that much of an effort into that role, but I think he's fine and sounds close to most of the other versions of the character anyway in the past, like close to Bill Murray, close to the original comic strip one, but I will definitely give it a look into when it releases in late May amongst a very busy weekend with 2 other films. And the second of that weekend is actually a film from a beloved director returning to a franchise that is seen as his best, as we're of course delving into the twisted world of Mad Max once again, but this time we're focusing on a character that was introduced in the last movie of Fury Road and became a fan favorite with this new prequel of Furiosa, a Mad Max saga. And this won't focus on a younger version of Fury Road's Furiosa, in which this one, which is not played by Cate Blanchett, is played by Anya Taylor-Joy, who will show her being captured from her home of the great green place of many mothers and given to an evil biker gang led by their leader of Dementus, who in this is played by Chris Hemsworth, and she must find her way back home in the middle of a battle of 2 tyrants fighting for dominance. Now honestly, Fury Road, absolutely great film, and I'm excited for this film. I'm hoping all the hype for this won't be for nothing, as the trailer gave some very interesting insights in the franchise. I'm sure we'll be giving this a look when it releases on that very busy weekend. And the last big film of May, and also that busy weekend, is coming to us from the director of John Krasinski, and this is not a new entry in his horror franchise, but we'll get to that later, but more of a lighthearted comedy with the new film of If. And this is also playing back to the other one, but this is more of a lighthearted comedy. Now, this film focuses on a young girl who has the ability to see the imaginary friends of others, and mainly to the ones that have been forgotten by their grown-up kids. And with the help of the man upstairs, in this played by Ryan Reynolds, we'll find a way to give them a new kid to be their imaginary friend and create a home for them all. Now, it does have a unique concept, and some of the ifs in this have some interesting designs, and I'm really getting, from the sound of this concept and story, that it's going to get some like Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends live action kind of term to it, and hopefully this will turn out quite good, because I like John Krasinski's work, so hopefully this turns out good and entertaining. Now into the true summer months, and we start off with an all-new spin-off in the world of John Wick, with the first spin-off film with Ballerina that will focus on the character of Rooney, played by Ana de Armas, who is a ballerina for the ballerina school under the guise of the director, played by Angelica Houston, who's looking to seek revenge against those who killed her family. Now this has me interested, and this will be set in between the events of Parabellum and 4, and has me interested to see how this will all turn out. Hopefully we'll get some footage for this film soon. Most cases I'm thinking Super Bowl will get the trailer for it. So tell me, what you gonna do when they do come for you once again? As the next film out in this long list of movies is the confirmed 4th entry in the Bad Boys franchise. Now not much is known on the film, but we'll see Will Smith and Martin Lawrence back again for more gun battles and high-speed chases, and facing an all-new enemy being played by Eric Dane. Now it is a question if the slap scene around the world will affect the reception or appeal for the film given Will Smith's sting, but I guess we'll find out more once we get to the first bit of footage from the movie sometime soon. And now we're taking a trip to one of my all-time favorite studios of Pixar, as we return to the mind of the young Riley once again to an all-new sequel to the beloved Pixar film of Inside Out. Now this new one will see the emotions of joy, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust learning to deal with the changes to the now teenage Riley as she enters puberty, and with it comes new emotions, with the first one that was introduced in the trailer of course being anxiety. And in all honesty, I can totally relate to a character as someone who is so very anxious all the goddamn time, but I hide it as well as I can, even though I'm breaking it all the fucking time. I'm sure we'll be introduced to the other new additions soon, but before this movie, I'm very excited to see this come out in mid-June. And another film that was initially planned at the end of last year, but got pushed out of the studio and released some other time, and that could be seen as a wars contender, is the new movie of The Bike Riders. This is a film that will be based on a fictional group of bikers from the 1960s known as the Outlaws OC, and told through the perspective of its members and their partners. Now, this was initially a planned film released by Disney, and then was picked up by another studio, which is a good move on their part, as it's considered as the awards contender, as I mentioned. I'm sure we'll see how it all turns out when it comes out on the 21st of June. And on the last of the films for June, we are returning to a series of films by a director we talked about a few films back, but will not be majorly involved with this new entry in the Quiet Place series with Day One. Now this was a spin-off of the original duology so far, and we'll follow some new characters in this, played by Lupita Nyong'o from Black Panther and Joseph Quinn from Stranger Things Season 4, following the effects of the stranger alien creature that has some strong hearing abilities and showing the effects in a massive city of New York. First two showed like kind of a little small town in a rural outback area. This is showing what the effects are in New York City. This is an interesting idea that has an interesting concept and of what the other countries in the world responding to the situation was like, I'm sure we will see the outcome when it drops at the end of June on the 28th. Now for the next entry in the series of films that will make the studio big bucks, as we have the all-new 4th entry in the mainline Despicable Me series, and the 6th movie overall if you count the 2 Minions films. Now this one's going to see Gru, Lucy, the girls, and Gru's new son, Gru Jr., who basically means he's done the Despicable on Lucy, and you can check on my opinion on it in the recent Remind episode, basically going on the run and going into hiding as a new villain played by Will Ferrell as basically escaped prison and is out for revenge. Now, we're not even sure if it's a case we're going to see any other characters like Drew or any other villains and stuff like that, but I'm sure it'll probably unveil over some point as we see more merchandise as this comes out on the 12th of July. And this is something that many people didn't expect or think was going to get a sequel, but in the summer, we are getting a sequel to the 1996 disaster movie of Twister with Twisters. Now, this is technically labeled as a reboot, a sequel, and its own separate story to the original film, but I'm sure we will learn more about it when it releases some footage soon and give us an explanation. So most likely it's going to be a whole cavalcade of Twisters. Most likely that case. And now for the sole MCU official film that survived the many delays and push-outs of this year is with, of course, the prequel of The Merc with a Mouth with Deadpool. Now, I want to read the official synopsis for this movie because it's translated from Japan, but it's the funniest shit ever. Now, as it goes, it's that fucking irresponsible hero of Deadpool has joined the MCU and changing history with Wolverine. That makes sense, right? What do you think, Bonnie? A good story? Now, logically, this film will probably go balls to the wall insane with all of its concept, as any Deadpool movie would go. So I'm hoping we're going to get some first proper look footage some point soon. I'm thinking probably by Super Bowl. And now for another video game adaptation, and the first of possibly 2 or 3 video game movies from this year, is the film that has been in the working process for well over 2 years now, and only finally received a release date last year. We are getting the film adaptation of Borderlands. Now this will follow the character of Lilith, when this played by Cate Blanchett, who returns to her home world of Pandora and will soon find herself with a group of unlikely allies, joining forces to protect the missing daughter of one of the universe's most powerful SOBs, as she may hold great unimaginable power. Now I've dabbled a little in the Borderlands series in the past, and I might give it a proper look into before the film releases in the later half of the summer. And returning to a place where no one can hear you scream, as we will be returning to the world originally conceived by the mind of Ridley Scott, as we have an all new entry in the Alien franchise with Alien Romulus. Now, not much is known on the plot right now, but it has been confirmed this will be a film that takes place in between the events of Alien 1 and 2, so it does seem intriguing that it makes you think of the excellent Alien Isolation game that has been the same time frame as the movie, so who knows how it will turn out, and hopefully we get some appeal and go back to the classic, similar to how Predator did with Prey. And for the second of the movies from the Sony side of Marvel movies, and the one that gets a bit of a massive delay, is with the new film focusing on another of Spidey's rogues gallery, and this is with Kraven the Hunter. Now the film focuses on Sergei Kravenov as he sets off to prove to be the greatest hunter in the world and take revenge against his father, while also dealing with some new animalistic powers. It does seem to be delving into a more mature tone with the more violent kills and bloodshed than the others, but I'm all for giving it a more mature aesthetic, and hopefully this will turn out pretty good when we see it by the end of August on the 30th. And then for the only film I can see in September that I'm intrigued by is with the long-awaited follow-up to the 1988 cult classic of Beetlejuice, now entitled Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. The plot of this is not too well known currently, but we'll see Michael Keaton and Winona Ryder returning to the roles after 36 years, and we'll have some new additions including Jenna Ortega, and I'm sure you'll see what they will do with the sequel when it drops on the early fall on the 6th of September. And then as for October, we're starting with a film that I'm interested in, but I also feel this may be a bit of overdoing it, but we are getting the sequel to the 2019 smash hit of Joker with Folie à Deux. Now this will see Joaquin Phoenix turn as the Joker, and will be given a love interest in the form of Harley Quinn, in this played by Lady Gaga, and we'll see some form of new romance and drama. It's also a musical. Now personally, I'm still on the case this film doesn't need to be made, as the first one works so well as a singular film, but I'll give it the chance. But I'm intrigued to see how they incorporate this musical aesthetic to it, but I'm sure there'll be a way, but I'll hold out and hopefully be as good and was well rewarded as the original when it drops on the 4th of October. This one may have a release date as well change, but just a small group that may remember, last year we did get a new film entry in the live action series of Transformers with Rise of the Beast, which while I enjoyed it, it had a lot more than the last 2 Bay films. There was some issues with that, and I will delve into that when my eventual review is out for it. But did you know we are getting a new animated film with Transformers 1? It may change the name, but I need to check it out on that. Now this will be a somewhat origins of the characters and set on Cybertron, and see the origins of how the Autobots and Decepticons became enemies. Now this isn't having Peter Cullen play Optimus Prime, but rather it's going to be Chris Hemsworth playing Optimus and Brian Tyree Henry from Spider-Verse playing Megatron. But I'm sure we'll get used to when we see the first looks of the film sometime soon and when the film drops in by mid-October. And now on to a new sequel to a small horror movie from 2 years ago that didn't have the most unique concept but turned out to be a very decent film, and that's the sequel to the movie of Smile. Now, it is unclear what exactly will be the basis of the other follow-ups, but I guess this curse will soon be spread across the globe, or else it'll take, in most cases, will delve into the origins of the curse or the creature and find a way to properly kill it. Now, either way, I'm sure we'll find the appeal and success of the original. Then, if they go with the appeal and success, then I'm sure it will work out well, but we'll have to see when the film drops just before Halloween. And timing close enough to the spooky season, we are seeing an all-new adaptation of the famous monster of the Wolfman make an appearance this year. Now, this will see a family trying to defend itself from the dangerous predator of the Wolfman, and that is as much plot as we can get from this anyway. And this is part of a supposed established dark universe that Universal has been pushing since the disaster of The Mummy from 2017.
No.
And follows on from the actually well-made 2020 film of The Invisible Man. So we can have some elaborate deeper meaning to it, hopefully. So it might be close to more Invisible Man than The Mummy. It was also supposed to be starring Oscar-nominated actor Ryan Gosling in the film, but has since been replaced with Poor Things actor Christopher Abbott. So I guess we'll have to find out how it all turns out around Halloween when it does. And now for another movie that I'm very excited to check out in this upcoming holiday season, and that is the long-awaited third movie in the beloved series of Paddington films. Now, for the title, it seems like Paddington and the Brown family are heading to Peru to visit Aunt Lucy, but soon leads to them ending up in the misadventures that could lead to some wholesome family adventures, maybe some treasure or something like that. Oh no. Now, it has been seeing two changes, as Paul King is not the director of this one, as he was busy making the very entertaining Wonka film from last year, which I will do a review for soon, and Sally Hawkins, who also appeared in that film and played Mrs. Brown in the first two movies, is not returning for this and will be replaced by Emily Mortimer, who played Holly Shiftwell from the second Cars movie and was the older version of one of the Banks children in the Mary Poppins Returns film. But I still have a very strong hope this will make it just as entertaining and wholesome as the original two films, and I'm very excited for it too. And the last of the Sony Spider-Man films that does not include Spider-Man from this year, as everyone's favorite large hulking alien symbiote of Venom is back for a third movie. Now, it is unclear what this film will be about in terms of plot, or if we'll acknowledge the mid-credit scene of both Let There Be Carnage and No Way Home. But I'm sure we'll see this anti-hero find another form of the symbiote, or even possibly bring him to a world that has a Spider-Man in it, but I guess we'll find out sometime soon. Now, for a film that's coming to us 24 years after the release of the first movie, and is surprising to be getting a sequel, is the follow-up to the historical epic of Gladiator. This film was set 15 years after the events of the original and will follow the tale of the much older Lucius, the grown nephew of Commodus, and will set off on a journey to find out the truth about his biological father. Now, this film has quite the star cast, including Paul Mescal, Denzel Washington, Pedro Pascal, Connie Nielsen, and many other big names, and hopefully this will have a very grand scale like the original, but I'm sure we'll find out more when it releases closer to the end of this year. And just when you thought that we had seen the slow rollout of festive holiday films, along comes Amazon, Warner Bros, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to bring a new film entitled Red One. Now, not much is known in this film, but it's planned to be the start of a potential franchise that will reshape some classic holiday mythology, and this film is also starring Chris Evans and even J.K. Simmons, as I believe to be playing a buff Santa Claus. But I'm sure we'll find out more about this film as it releases in the near future. And the last of the films to be releasing in the month of November is taking a new form of adapting a stage play into a full feature-length film, as with a new adaptation of the popular Broadway show of Wicked, with Wicked Part 1. The basis of this film, which is of course two-parter, is essentially set in the film world of The Wizard of Oz, and will tell the story of the origins of the Wicked Witch of the West. And this will be starring Cynthia Erivo as the Wicked Witch, and Ariana Grande as the Good Witch, that apparently has also caused a bit of drama in this movie. And it also has Michelle Yeoh cast in this, as well as Jeff Goldblum playing the Wizard. But then remembering that there is already a form of a film adaptation about the origins of the witches and stuff with Oz the Great and Powerful from a decade ago, but I'm sure it will get some appeal, and hopefully this will work out and not just be so focused on one actress in this, but it's hard to tell right now, but we'll probably find out by the time it comes out in late November. And then we have seen for the series to go from classic series in the 80s to a mixed response remake in the early 2010s to a popular sequel series from YouTube Red and then to Netflix with Cobra Kai. We now look like we're getting an all new follow-up in the Karate Kid franchise. Now, not much on this known right now, but we'll see Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan both appearing in this film, combining both movies together, and so far they've already been looking for the next lead star far for the movie, so whether we will see this release this year is anyone's guess, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. But at the moment, projected for a December 13th release. Also releasing on the 13th of December is it's been a decade since we have seen any form of the world of Middle-earth on the big screen, unless that Rings of Power series was shown in cinemas at some point, but it looks like we are getting ourselves an all-new animated Lord of the Rings movie entitled The War of the Rohirrim. Now this will be set 261 years before the events of the Two Towers and tell the story of Helm Hammerhand, a legendary king of Rohan who must defend his people and his kingdom against an army of Dundledings or something, I believe. I can't remember what I've written here. Now I'm intrigued in the form of it, and this will have a distinct similar animation style to the old Lord of the Rings film adaptations, or if it will have a slight unique style to them similar to Spider-Verse, Ninja Turtles, or whatever they see fit, but I'm sure we'll learn more about it over time as releases just before Christmas. And following on the very successful two films that could have crashed and burned from the start from a certain design, we have the upcoming release of the third entry in the Sonic the Hedgehog film series. Now not much is known right now in the plot, but it will be seeing some more edgier tone as we are being introduced to the fan favorite character of Shadow in this movie, alongside the return of Tails, Knuckles, and now confirmed Dr. Eggman. Now it's unclear if we'll see any other new additions like the love interest for Sonic with Amy, or even the one closely related with Shadow with Rouge, but I'm sure we'll learn more about it as time goes on this year and releases on December 20th of this year. And for the sole surviving, possibly live action film from the giant company at Disney, and coming 5 years after its predecessor, that is the highest grossing animated film, even though it's labeled as a live action movie, of all time, we have the sequel to The Lion King with Mufasa. Now this will be a prequel sequel that will delve onto a younger Mufasa and Scar before the events of the original, and besides that we do not have much to go on, but I'm sure we will get given more details as the film reaches closer to release by the end of this year. And for a film that has me very excited with its anticipation is coming off his success from his turn into horror from his decently entertaining comedy, Jordan Peele is back once again with his next new film. Now details in this film are very hush-hush, so much so we don't have no idea what it's about or even a name for the film, but if it's as great as his films as Get Out, Us, and Nope, then I'm all for waiting to see what kind of tense creepy tale with a deep message undertone he'll have this time around when it releases, I believe, Christmas Day? Or the 20th? I believe it's the end of the year, so it's that. But then another horror film, we've got another one releasing this year from a strong horror contender with Robert Eggers, the director of The Witch, The Lighthouse, and the underrated but really good action film of The Northman, is coming back with a new horror film in Nosferatu. Now this is a new attempt at an adaptation of the gothic tale of obsession between a haunted young woman and a terrifying vampire infatuated with her, causing untold horror in her wake. Now it has a star-studded cast with Lily Rose Depp, Willem Dafoe, Nicholas Hoult, Bill Skarsgård, and many more, and I'm sure we'll be getting a hauntingly good scare around the holidays this year. Now that's all the films that we have confirmed release dates, but here are some projections of what possibly might come out in 2024. Now this one, I don't know why I threw in here, but initially I put Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse here. I think logically we could see it at the end of this year, but in most cases I'm thinking next year or 2026 the latest. No matter how long they take to make it and develop it is all good with me, because Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, absolute perfection cinema. So I'm good if it's delayed a little bit longer, so I'm totally fine with that. Next, it's the case that Mufasa may not be the only live-action Disney film coming out this year. There's been talks that there might be a live-action version of the very popular film of Lilo and Stitch releasing sometime in the middle part of this year. Now, this will be the story of the alien creature fugitive crash landing on a small island in Hawaii, and to escape his pursuers pretends to be a dog that's adopted by a young lonely girl named Lilo and her sister Nani, and soon things will turn hectic on an intergalactic scale. So it could be releasing in mid-June, but we'll have to see when it comes out. On a film that comes from a director that many blame for the death of Star Wars and then released two murder mysteries regarded as some of his best work, may be back once again with a third entry in the Knives Out series. Now it's unclear who will be joining the soon-to-be all-star cast similar to the previous two films, but we do know that Daniel Craig will be back as Benoit Blanc and solving an all-new mystery in a very vibrant location where anyone could be the killer, and I for one cannot wait. And then for the only other possible rumored video game film adaptation on this list of films, may be seeing an all-out brawl taking place, as we may see the possible release of the sequel to the 2021 adaptation of Mortal Kombat. Now, not much is known in the story, but we do know that at least one new addition to the film is with Carl Urban taking on the role of the popular series character of Johnny Cage, and that filming has started before the strikes happened last year. But it's unclear if we will see it, but it could maybe be somewhat quiet fall season for films. Now, this one that you may not be fully aware of, but around 2 years ago in 2022, we saw the release of 2 films of a planned trilogy, with the first film named X in late March and a follow-up with Pearl that September. And now they are back with the conclusion with Maxine, that's with 3 X's in the middle. Now this will be set after the events of X, Pearl being a prequel of course, and we'll see Mia Goth in the leading role and taking on a new form of horror genre media. Now I would say this film could see some possible effects due to a possible legal issue that Goth may have found herself in due to an allegation that she kicked an extra in the face on a previous film. Yes, this sounds wild, but this is apparently what happened, and I'm sure we'll delve more into the film whenever we get the word of a release date. And in context on this one, if you remember around late last year, it was announced that Warner Bros. Had cancelled a live-action animated court drama based on Wile E. Coyote for a tax write-off, and then it saw a massive pushback and even possible legal investigation that has now been shopped around and for some of the big companies for distributors, and it could see a release sometime this year. Now give it a bit of plot. While he's taking Acme to court, as none of the products have been successful in helping him capture the Roadrunner, and gets a lawyer that may not be the best, but will give it a damn try. But when the prosecution lawyer is the head of Acme and the lawyer's old boss, played by John Cena, he will make it his mission to win the case. It's garnered strong test audience perception and other positive opinions, so it may be worth a watch whenever it may get released, and hopefully gets a release in cinemas and show Warner are making some really bad choices. And the final rumored film coming to us is in the form of an all-new film from Academy Award director Bong Joon-ho with Mickey 17. Now we'll follow the titular character, who's known as an expendable, a disposable body in a human expedition sent to colonize the ice world of Niflheim, where when one iteration dies, new bodies regenerate with most of the memories still intact. It's quite an interesting concept that has some big names like Robert Pattinson, Stephen Young, Toni Collette, Naomi Aki, and Mark Ruffalo in the cast, which may be a big award contender if done successfully. Now initially planned for release in late March, the film was delayed just a short while ago to an unknown date, but I'm sure we'll receive a new date soon before the end of this year. So that's all the films. I may have forgotten, I think the Beverly Hills Cop sequel, which I think is July now, but yeah, that's basically all we have this year, so let's get on to the TV shows.
This video shall be continued in the second video, so stay tuned, listeners.